the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. It's Sunday. It's our IPL show. We forgot about Friday. We forgot. I mean, that's on us. Sorry about that. So this is going to be a 6-game mega episode of our IPL coverage. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a pretty good show, I reckon. I'm Jack Hope, and I'm joined by Ross Legg. Ross, we've got a lot of cricket to remember between the two of us.
Yep.
Full disclosure, we've been in the sun today, haven't we?
Couple of beers. But Max has left us. Max, we're supposed to be a 3-man pod.
Yeah.
Max is not pulling his weight.
He was out of Friday. He was out of Wednesday. Or he's out of next Wednesday. He's out of today. He can't do the Friday after.
Shame.
Lightweight, I think is what we call him. Do you want to start with messages, or do you want to get straight into a game?
I like it at the moment. We get into a game and then do messages.
Okay,
So it keeps people on their toes, keep people honest. But if you are watching this video, like this video and subscribe to our channel.
Okay, that's sort of a message, but it leads nicely into a game. And we had a game this evening, or at least that's what they called it. Result, CSK 208-4-6. Delhi Capitals all out 117 of 17.4 overs. Ross, can you summarise that game in anything resembling an interesting way?
No, it was an absolute pummeling, wasn't it? There was Delhi, to be fair, had a couple of players who, one player who got a positive test for COVID, and then they'd all been in their hotel rooms, and it kind of disrupted their preparation or whatever. But CSK came out today with kind of a bit between their teeth, and it was one of those games which Delhi just couldn't grasp any control over it whatsoever. They won the toss, decided to bowl, thinking, do you know what, we'll take these guys down. But actually, they got pounded. Super Kings were good from the outset, really. Gaikwad is back into a bit of form. Conway is looking like a great pickup for 2 crore, really filling Faf's shoes in a really nice way. And then the rest have kind of contributed. Dhoni is back in a rich vein of form. Again, striking over 250. And they propelled themselves to 208, as you were saying, Jack.
Oh, good God.
It's just a little bit, I don't know, it's too little too late. It's too little too late, right?
Yeah, I thought you'd lost me there.
What are you
Ross.
worried about?
I thought you'd lost me. I thought I was going to have to do an entire IPL 6-episode show by myself.
That would be funny. Maybe I'll the things to get. Maybe I should just pretend. But again, here it was not even a competition, and there was a bit of David Warner was their biggest chance of kind of getting back into this, and Teek Sharda got rid of him LBW when he played a stupid shot. It was a harsh one to probably be given out as, and it was out umpire's call, but still out. And the rest just couldn't get going whatsoever. Moeen Ali was a man in form, and it was just not good enough from Delhi today.
Yeah, I mean, Delhi had been a bit unfortunate, I think, coming into this match. I think we should acknowledge that. They had a COVID scare. Prithvi Shaw is in hospital with a virus which isn't COVID, but he's like hooked up to a drip and all sorts. He's not just down there; he's in bed. They weren't hoping to go into their biggest match of the year with Stricker Barrett as their opening batter. I don't think.
No, but it's interesting, right? Because without Prithvi Shaw, they do have a bit of a soft underbelly. Like, Prithvi does offer quite a lot into that team. He's an important cog in the Delhi machine.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he's arguably in the top 2 Indian openers, I think. I mean, like, there is certainly a case you can make that he should be going to the World Cup as a player in starting 11. I don't think he will. I think there'll be some seniority stuff that goes on there. But pretty sure Rohit Sharma, who are you taking? No, I want you to answer it. I want you to. Yeah,
hey, I'm loyal to the elderly. I've learned that lesson.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, he's a legend. Yeah. So stupid from me to suggest that. CSK. Max has said a couple of times on the pod. Obviously, he's a big CSK fan, so you have to take what he says with a grain of salt. He said a couple of times that he thinks they've been unlucky to not have won a couple more matches and not be a little bit more competitive. You have to say, watching them today, they look like a a pretty competent side, and I wonder, like, had they had a bit of luck in say that game where they lost to Lucknow, where they scored 220, and then they had children bowling, toddlers bowling, or something like that, and KL and Quinton de Kock destroyed them. Had they had a bit of luck there, or Deepak Chahar had only missed 4 matches, like the initial prognosis, like, you do wonder whether they'd have been a seriously competitive team in this IPL, right?
Yeah, definitely. And they do have some good players. I mean, Robin Uterberg has been the most disastrous pickup in my fantasy team of all season. He's done nothing for the last 3 games.
Got
Complete passenger. Yeah, with TFC, he's pretty much getting every game at the moment. But you look at the side, and yeah, it is disappointing. With Chahar, yeah, they would be. But unfortunately, like, injuries happen to every team, right? And it's how you end up managing it. The way in which they've utilised Jadeja has been a disaster, obviously. It was dropped for today. I'm not sure if he was actually injured. We were told he was dropped. Again, it's a really difficult place to be at the moment. Dwayne Bravo coming back into the side and doing well. Again, they're always dangerous. Or they've got the players to be dangerous here. But it's too little, too late for them. Kevin Peterson, as much as he wanted to believe it on comms, they've got no chance of getting back into the playoffs. 0.
Mate, what was that all about?
Yeah, it's really important. I don't know what impression that was. It's a really important wicket.
That was Australian.
Yeah.
Do your South African accent.
I'll do my South African accent, but his KP doesn't actually sound like that, does he? He sounds a little bit different. I sound like a Rolf Mandeverver, like it's a bit different. But KP genuinely was going, it's a really important wicket. It's just like, no, it's not. Like, it's bad for Delhi. It's a really important wicket for Delhi to lose, but CSK just there's no chance to then get back in. No chance.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, which is why I said which is why I asked the question I asked just a minute ago. I am struggling. I'll be honest. We've got a bunch of games to get through, and a bunch of the games aren't that exciting. This is definitely one of them. We probably want to do the show in somewhere near an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason for me to ask you any more questions about this cricket match? Maybe something about Delhi and whether they can pull it out of the bag from here.
I think Moeen Ali I'd quite like to talk about, purely on the fact that England have struggled a little bit. We've not with the representation of England we talked about has been a bit hit and miss. Moeen Ali come back from a bit of an injury is a supreme T20 player. Is one of those people who you want to have in your team. And he picked up 3 wickets today for sod all runs, and looked like at Moeen Ali's kind of top best. Right, he looked good. He was fizzing the ball. It was bowling well, bit of grip, bit of bounce. And I was just thinking to myself that when you have an off spinner in your team, and I know he's going to bowl into some left-handers today, but they do seem to me that they're kind of being underutilized a little bit, Jack. The matchups we know favour right-handed bats against off spinners, but it does seem to me a little bit this season that they've taken it another step. I reckon the utilisation of off spinners has been a little bit lower.
I think that's a really interesting call. It would be really interesting, I think, to look into the data of that to see whether off spinners in general have bowled more. Obviously, it's like the number one matchup in cricket, isn't it? Like left-hander bowl and off-spinner. Like, everybody knows that. Even like down in club cricket, pre-IPL, pre-T20, everybody knew if there was a left-hander, give it to the off-spinner, and they'd probably get him out, or they'd have a decent chance of getting him out. I think you might have a point there, and I think we talked about it a little bit in some recent shows. Like, as these pitches, and I think today, maybe yesterday, you really did see, or did start to see, that some of them are getting a bit low, a little bit slow, a little bit worn. We have talked before on this pod about how spinners who have a lot of control over their line and length seem to be coming into matches a little bit more. Now, if you wanna be kind of reductive again and maybe a bit stereotypical, just like the left-handers, the off spinners thing, you might say, and you'd probably be right, that the off spinners, left arm off spinners, have or tend to have the most control over where the ball lands. I mean, obviously, the slower you bowl, the easier it is to hit a mark on the pitch. Bowling off spin versus leg spin, it is an easier skill to it's the action of your arm for most, isn't it? Like, as you throw your arm out there, turn it slightly. It's a pretty fucking easy thing to do. No, I don't want to take away from the skill. I don't want to take away from the skill of Moeen Ali, and he does get a lot of resonance. It's not like anybody could go out there and roll their arm over. But
some of them try. Let's be fair.
No,
some of them try.
Yeah. We've seen Rian Parag bowl. I think what I'm getting at is that if you've got a guy who is an international quality off spinner, which Moeen Ali, I think you'd probably say with 200 Test wickets is or is certainly near to being, giving them the ball on these pitches when they've got good control, slightly regardless of matchup, I think they'll always be in the contest. And it certainly was today. What was it? Was it 3 for 13 off 4?
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff. Like it's one of those bits where he looked a class above, which was great.
And this is why as well. I think there's a kind of a view with Moeen Ali, probably erroneously, that I think a lot of people judge him just based on what he brings with the bat, which to some extent is understandable. I don't think it's the correct call to make, but it is understandable because he is a man that generally bats in the top 4 for franchises. Sometimes he's a bit lower down the order for England, but there's definitely a case that he should bat in the top 4 for England. What you're getting with Moeen Ali is not a rock solid number 3. He's not an anchor. He's a guy who wants to hit at 150. He's much more in, let's say, the Liam Livingstone type mould, where you're going to get like quite a lot of variance between their good and their bad performances. They are going to get out cheaply quite a lot, and I think with the bat this year, you've seen that with Mo. But what you get with Mo, definitely a bit more than Livingston. Livingston's probably the better stick, isn't he? But with Mo, what you get is somebody who when conditions work for them, or even sometimes when the conditions don't, but you get a nice matchup, is worth 2 overs a game, probably on average. I mean, some games he doesn't bowl, sometimes he bowls 4, but he's probably worth 2 overs a game through an IPL. Actually, it would be interesting. Maybe while you're talking, I'll quickly look up what he's bowled in the last few years. But he's an excellent player. He's a genuinely like proper top flight T20 player. Played a huge role in this win.
Yeah, and I think it sets up perfectly right that he played for RCB, and he wasn't retained by RCB, was he? Obviously, he was. Well,
they didn't really know what to do with him.
Yeah, and it was one of those bits now where looking back on that pickup from CSK, it's a great thing. And as you say, like if a couple of things had gone CSK's way, as things have pretty much gone, like they're marshalled very well. Obviously, Dhoni's back at the helm and he's led them really well for the last decade. But luck kind of comes on your side this year. Luck deserted them with their frontline bowler going out. Yes, they overspent on him, but that's what happens sometimes. They'll be back stronger next year, no doubt. So
Mo, just to go back to that point, 41 IPL matches, 81 overs bowled, 81.3. So round that up, it is almost exactly 2 overs a match. Economy 6.96, average 29. Or 30.
It's pretty good. Yeah,
it's really decent. And then you're coupling that with a guy who averages 22 with the bat at 143. Now, like I said, he's not somebody to build your top order around necessarily, but 22 at 143, but you're getting some pretty good innings out of that guy on a year-to-year basis. And some of those innings as well were played for RCB when they seemed to think he was like a number 8.
Yeah, he's also a left-hander, and he's really good against spin. So actually, a spin hitter and in the middle overs, that's really important. So a real asset. And I think there's some real positives for CSK to actually take away from this season. They're not going to make the playoffs, but still, another good win. And Delhi in a bit of trouble now.
Like I was saying on our Discord earlier, I think for me, CSK are the best of the worst teams this year. There's a few teams that arguably haven't really turned up, or definitely haven't really turned up. Mumbai, Kolkata, CSK. Maybe there'll be 1 or 2 more we can throw into there. There's definitely one we'd like to throw into there, and we will get to them shortly. But I think looking at what CSK have brought to the table, who they have that's been out injured, what has worked for them, the fact that Conway's played some games and got married and missed out, and actually, since he's come back, played a couple of really good innings for them.
A real honeymoon period for him.
There's some real positives. If I was a CSK fan, I'd be a bit disappointed that this year has ended the way it has, but I wouldn't be disconsolate We'll talk about Kolkata when we get to Kolkata, but like they're a team that literally don't know what's going on.
Yeah, CSK have a game plan. They've got people who've been there and done it. Their auction strategy was a bit of a mess, but they've still got a good enough 12, 13 players, which can be competitive. The issue is if you get a couple of injuries, have a couple of weddings, there's going to be a problem.
And that a couple of injuries, have a couple of weddings. That sounds like a club team. And they've got Dhoni. It's the other thing I would add. Like obviously,
it's returned to form.
It's captain of all time.
It's returned to form.
No, it doesn't matter what you're saying.
No, it's the extra 3 runs and innings that he's responsible for. Delhi on the other hand, Jack, bit of trouble. But again, if someone's going to really deeply analyse this, like COVID is no joke, right? Especially when it's going through a team, like especially if they're going to be locked up in their rooms, etc. That is just purely disruptional. And they've had that twice out of the games, and none of the other teams have actually suffered with it as far as the media's been reporting. They're still sitting in 5th. They're not out of this tournament, and I still think there's probably a twist and turn to go because I think out of those teams, like the top 4 at the moment, there are losses in those teams, but every game is now a cup final.
100%. Unfortunately for them, they don't have a match against RCB, do they? To play. RCB have got Punjab and Gujarat as their final 2 matches. Both losable for RCB, but you do with this team. I think Delhi are another team. If they don't make the playoffs, if I was a Delhi fan, I wouldn't be like, "Oh no, it's the end of the world. We're going to be terrible forever." I'd probably look at it and be like, "That's an incredibly frustrating season where our absolute, electric fast bowler was injured, then came back and was still injured, and we made him bowl, and he wasn't allowed to bowl anymore because he kept hitting people in the head. And then he was injured again, and we've had to play the B team and kind of work around that. And then people have been going down with COVID. Our coach hasn't been at some of the matches. And still, out of all of that, we're with 3 games to go. If we win all those 3 games, we probably do make the playoffs. You'd right now, if I was a Delhi fan, I'd be frustrated, but not disappointed, if that makes sense.
And if you're going to keep picking Mitch Marsh as your saviour, it's going to be an issue.
I mean, there are some dumb things they do. There are some dumb things.
Khalil Ahmed is so. I've got him in my notes for the Delhi Sunrisers game, but he's genuinely been a decent player for them, and I think it'd be nice to see their lineup make a little bit more sense for Delhi. So I think the fact that they're not playing the Fizz is a major error. Like, I think I generally rate him so highly, and I think one of their issues is being able to have 4 overs that they can bank on with everybody. At the moment, it's just not happening.
Right, Ross, messages for the listeners, and then we'll go on to the morning match.
Yes, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. Use code TCP22 for 10% off all cricket equipment. Get yourself a new helmet or bat or gloves or whatever. We've got great stuff from them. We couldn't recommend them more. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us at The Cricket Pod. And on this video, if you're watching it or if you're on a podcast platform, like it. Leave us a review. If you leave us a review on iTunes, we'll read it out. Rate us 5-star on Spotify if you're listening to us there. And then subscribe to our YouTube channel. And tell your friends about us. That's the big thing. Road to 100,000 followers is on.
Yeah. We're on 10,500. So the road
Not friends. Not a friend.
The road to 10k in hindsight seemed very easy, didn't it? Like, the way the road to 100k has gone. This morning, Royal Challengers Bangalore took on Sunrisers Hyderabad. I thought I had this down as the biggest game of the tournament so far. I thought both teams would come out like really firing. I was looking forward to 2 pretty good 11s going mano, SRH with their slightly better net run rate, RCB with their more wins. Who's going to come out on top? It's gonna really put one of those teams in a fantastic position to qualify. Do you want to do the summary of what happened, starting with the big man? Go on.
I can, yeah. So Virat Kohli was the sacrifice, and it was the first ball. Powerful message.
It's Sunday. It's Sunday, so we should sacrifice. Yeah,
exactly. It's a powerful message to the cricketing gods that Virat Kohli is going to have his third first baller of the season. And after he was out, RCB built a pretty solid platform. Faf was the aggressor. Patadar kind of enjoyed himself at a relatively leisurely pace. Maxwell couldn't quite get going, couldn't quite find his timing. But the man with the fancy shirts, Dinesh Karthik, knew exactly where his scoring areas were, knew exactly how aggressive he was going to be, and he went off like a jet engine.
He hit half his balls for 6.
Yeah, he struck at 375. He said, like, it took a competitive total, which SRH were thinking, we're in the game here, we can chase down 160, 165 to 170. They got 192 because Dennis Carter came out was just like, I'm just going to twat everything to the leg side boundary. And he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And not for the first time this season. His strike rate for the tournament is now over 200. Like when we talk about like brilliant players, Dennis Karthik is right there. And at the moment, who are you taking? Dennis Karthik has to be on the plane to Australia for the T20 World Cup for India. There's no one better in that role in world cricket right now.
We didn't really talk about. Do your thing, and then we'll talk about DK. Mm-hmm. Yeah, carry
on. SRH then got off to the perfect start as Kane Williamson was run out without facing a ball, giving them a chance of chasing it down as another sacrifice to the cricketing gods. But sadly, their alleged explosive firepower middle order that we're told about so often was no match for Hasaranga. The Sri Lankan mystery spinner, he blows pretty hot and cold, but he was red hot today. 5 for 18, and he embarrassed the Sunrisers, who got rolled for 125. It was from RCB winning the toss. It was a superb display from RCB. Like, if you're an RCB fan, like Rickon is in the chat, like you're going away from this being like, hang on a minute, like this could well be. They're hitting their form just at the right moment.
They certainly are, and I think they had their little lull, didn't they? And people were like, oh, it's over for them. You know, they're 4 and 5. There's no chance of them getting back into it. And I think, we're going to give ourselves credit here. That's really what this whole podcast is about, is making predictions. Some of them we're wrong, and we cut those loose, and we never really mention them again. People on Twitter do, but we don't. We cling on to the predictions that we remember, and we ride those predictions into the sunset. And this is definitely one that we can ride into the sunset. Like RCB, for me, one of the best teams in this tournament, man for man. Everything makes sense about their lineup. And what I think we're seeing, to some extent anyway, in their last 2-3 matches, is the fruits of the labour of putting together a team that makes sense. Like putting together maybe the most complete team in this IPL. Now, they're not like necessarily world beaters 1 to 11. You talk about Hasaranga, he blows hot and cold. You talk about Kohli, can't buy a run. And when he can buy a run, it costs them a lot of balls. There are some problems with the team, but you look at what they're trying to do and the players they've got in each position. You never really say that person is categorically not good enough to do that, or that person shouldn't be at the IPL, or they've got 7 anchors or anything like that. It is a team that makes sense, and I think, should we do DK first and how good he is? 274 runs, 137 balls, exactly 200. It's the hallmark of a proper player. 21 sixes, 21 fours. He is, just looking through here, I mean, like, he's obviously miles behind Butler, but if you take Butler out of the running, he's the joint top 6 holder. So in other words, he's the second joint. Yeah, you know what I mean? I've really enjoyed RCB coming back, and I thought today would be kind of an acid test of two ways of doing cricket. One which is sort of like hoping for the best, hoping you win loads of tosses, putting loads of money in an overseas player that probably is a little bit past it, and kind of hoping because the captain will inspire something. Picking a bowling core that is quite good, but then like randomly changing them all over the place, and then like trying to claim later that is horses for courses or something like that. We saw, in my mind here, and there is some bias, I'm sure. We saw a team that was using logic versus a team that was using sort of gut feel. And the team that used logic absolutely destroyed them. So it's a victory, not only for us, Ross, but for clever people. RCB, the champions of the clever.
Yeah, and it also comes down to I don't mind the horses for courses approach. I think sometimes you'd be like, we've got a thing where we think we've got a better matchup here. The pitch is doing this. We're going to do it this way, but that doesn't mean changing 3 or 4 people out of your team. And over a course of a few games, it could have been really easy for RCB to press the panic button. I think they lost 3 in a row, and now they've won 2 on the trot. They could have easily completely panicked. But actually, if you look at their bowling lineup, they've kind of gone, do you know what? This is going to come good. We've had Siraj, who's not had a brilliant season. He's been okay. But actually, their other players are all contributing. And having a spin contingent of Hasaranga, Maxwell, and Shabazz Ahmed is actually quite potent, especially when it's backed up by Hazelwood and Harshal Patel. And as the pitches are going to change, you want the class and consistency of Hazelwood, and then you want to be able to take the advantage of the slower, grippier tracks with your spinners and Harshal Patel. And then Siraj, you're like, can you try and bowl with 90 miles an hour, please? You're probably not going to hit 90 miles an hour, but he's going to try. And it's okay. It's a pretty good lineup. And Patidar, since he's come in, has to take a bit of credit, I think. He's really picked up the pieces of where Virat Kohli has kind of let the team down.
Oh, absolutely. I think Patidar, so he came in for Anand Rawat, didn't he? A huge upgrade based on his performance so far. I mean, obviously in T20 you get like hot streaks and bad streaks and whatever. So maybe Anand Rawat was playing his worst cricket, and Patidar's come in and is now playing his best cricket. He was all right, if my memory serves, last year. I mean, maybe all right is being generous. But this year, we got 50 in the last match, 48 off 38 today. It's not setting the world on fire, but it's certainly building a platform with Faf there to set Maxwell and DK up for some runs. I just want to say, Ross, really quickly, that we've had an incredibly generous super chat coming from Jitta Rankachari. A small contribution, he says, so that you know your efforts are appreciated. And there's a smiley face, which is good. I like people that smile. If Rajasthan Royals win it all, there's $150 of pizza money coming your way. By the way, any idea why Jaiswal wasn't preferred over the new ball eater extraordinaire Devdutt Padikkal? Do you want to do it? We'll probably cover that in the Rajasthan game. But just to say, that is incredibly generous. $20.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, like we could buy a pizza with $20. Probably be quite a nice pizza as well. Ross has disappeared. I was about to ask him a question, so this could be tricky. And now I'm panicking, and that isn't good. Oh, you're back. Thank Christ.
I'm back. I am back. Thank the Lord Almighty. Oh yeah.
What I was going to say is what I was going to ask about is the Sunrisers bowling attack. Why in God's name have they decided in this match of all matches, the biggest match of their season, that they would blood an Afghan seamer who has played 8 T20s?
He was okay, wasn't he? He was okay up until the last over. Up until the last over.
Yeah, but that counts as one of his overs.
Oh no, I know he was okay up until that point. What I don't understand, and Sunrisers fans were at me from the outset, right? They won 5 in a row, and like, Ross, you're an idiot. You've got no idea what you're talking about. There's $400 on the line. I was going to wear silly shirts, whatever.
They still might. They still might do it. They still might do it.
But with this, like, they had a winning formula.
Yeah.
What I don't understand it. Well, they've changed it completely.
We were worried.
Not only have they ruined Umran Malik, who is literally bowling missiles, they literally don't understand like how it's gone from, do you know what, lads? We've somehow managed to get to a position where our team makes sense. We're getting the best out of our bowling lineup, and teams are they're intimidated to play against us because they don't know where the runs are coming from. If Boovy's going for nothing, we've got Natarajan, and there was a couple of injuries for Sunrisers. Let's be fair, Natarajan was out and Washington Sundar was out, but still, they had a plan, and it just feels to me like they've diverged, and it's difficult for them now.
I mean, I think diverge is sort of an understatement to some extent. Now, somebody in the chat said, SRH, Samu has said, SRH faces some bad luck. Main spinner and death bowler are both injured. So obviously, Washington Sundar is the main spinner. That's a problem. If Washington Sundar is your main spinner, that's a problem in the first place. I mean, I don't think there's much difference between him and Suchith.
And I think Suchith has actually been all right. I think Suchith has probably been a bit more of a threat actually than Washington Sundar. Just doesn't offer enough of the bat.
Yeah. I think that's probably fair. Did he get hit today, or did I imagine that?
No, he's a two for 30. So you're taking.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Taking that.
That's fine. No, that's good bowling. And Natarajan, obviously the death bowler out, and that is unlucky. Like, it is unlucky. However, you did buy Natarajan, a guy who has, and we went through this the other week when people were saying, when we said SRH had been a bit lucky that their team had all stayed fit, like that Bhuvi and Natarajan don't play 14 matches a season. They're not bowlers that are able to really do that anymore. The fact that one of them has broken down is basically to be expected. What's I think, kind of unforgivable is that Marco Jansen was winning them cricket matches 2 games ago.
Yeah,
he has one bad game. And that happens. That happens in the IPL all the time. But Bumrah in his first match got taken apart by Akshar Patel. Mumbai, they made a lot of stupid mistakes this year, but they weren't like, well, he's got to go. Like, you can't use him anymore. Sometimes you just have to be like, well, look, he's a top and tail bowler. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's more of a top bowler than a tail bowler. Sometimes he's going to get hit around. But we'll back him overall to win us matches. And I think he would have done. Like, left arm over, moving the ball around. That seems
offers a bit with the bat as well, which can't be underestimated for this team as well. Yeah. I think they don't bat that deep now.
It seems to be a tournament where that is a lot of the really good teams are taking wickets in the power play, and you had a guy who's taking wickets in the power play. You binned him off, and now you're playing a guy who, I don't know. I think you're being generous. Like, I don't think. I don't think there's much of an excuse to be picking the guy, and particularly, if you were 3-7 or 3-8 or something at this time, if you were Mumbai or you were CSK, fine, do it, play him, let's see how good he is. You're not. You're actually in the hunt. You're properly in the hunt, and you're playing your main rival probably for that 4th place, and you bring him in, and you're basically hoping for the best.
But the fact that Umran Malik has only bowled 2 overs here. Umran Malik in the last one, he's bowled 10 overs. I think it was in the Discord chat, and he's been licked. He's been hit around, but he's not doing a role that was familiar to him. He is actually excelled bowling at the depth. I thought he's done really well in the last over. He took 3 wickets in the last over of that game. Yeah, it was a bit of a freak incident, but again, if you've got a guy who's touching 90 miles an hour, actually it might make it a little bit more challenging for Dinesh Karthik to take you on, rather than you've got a left-hander bowling about 7-8 miles an hour, even more slower than that, and not having the confidence.
I'd slightly disagree with that. I think they found a perfect role for Umran Malik.
In the middle overs.
Yeah. Well,
as the enforcer.
They did it like 3 games in a row. Like, he's going to bowl 9, 11, 13, 15, and he'll be out again. And he'll take a bunch of wickets, and we'll be really happy. And instead, and then like they went from that to, we'll use him in the power play again. 20 runs.
Don't agree with the don't agree with the power play bit, but you can't let him bowl 2 overs. That's even if he goes round, but he's going to go for runs sometimes if he just gets it a little bit wrong. Here, I thought bowling Farouk was going to be an issue at the death. Like that final over, first game in the IPL. Go on, mate, see what you can do against Dinesh Karthik, who is big dog. So Faruqi's been treated a little bit badly there. Poor captaincy from Kane.
The only black spot on RCB is Kohli. We put out a poll in the YouTube chat asking how much time people wanted to spend on this. Under 2 minutes. So Ross, your thoughts on Kohli in, I'll give you 75 seconds and then I'll add my thoughts.
This innings, first baller, was so much better than his previous 2 innings. It was beneficial to RCB him getting a first baller today. I think they would have struggled to win this game if Sunrisers was like, we've got a chance here. If they would have got 165, this Sunrisers team can chase that down. But the fact that they managed to most of their batsmen struck at much higher rates, I think, got to that position. So he deserves to. He still should be in the team, but he needs to figure it out and fast. Otherwise, it's bad.
I agree with that. I mean, people are saying he needs a rest. They spent like 5 overs talking about it after he was out. It was It wasn't bizarre.
Terrible. Terrible. The commentary is getting much worse, by the way. As the IPL is going on, the commentary is dire. There's a real lack of insight from a data perspective. Actually, what's actually going on in the game? Like they just seem to be going, "Oh my god, it's amazing! Look at the tenor punch!" And it's a bit like, give me something. We're like, why is he bowling this way? Where is he trying to hit this? A little bit of analysis would go a hell of a long way. And it doesn't even have to be that much.
Yeah, but they talked about Kohli for a lot. I think Kohli, it's very difficult to drop him. They're spending a lot of money on him. Is he one of their best 11 players? Yes, he probably still is. Mm-hmm. Should he go to the World Cup? No, probably not. But I think that was known for a little while. We spoke with Dan Weston about this for literally 45 minutes on the last episode we were on with him last week. Same things. He's playing a slightly old method of the game. People have worked him out a bit. But their replacements for him aren't as good as him. So still be in the 11.
Yeah, that's how it goes, right? Yeah. Should we move on? RCB hitting form at the right time. SRH on a terminal decline. I think that this...
Who's going to the playoffs? RCB?
Yeah, RCB are going. I think they're coming together really nicely. And Maxwell as well, looking a bit more confident at the crease. He might have not quite found his rhythm today, but with the bat and ball, he's looking better. That's really important if Virat's going to be a downer.
I think Maxwell, I just had a look at his numbers. People have been like, oh, he's having a bad year. 193 runs, strike rate 167, average 24. Decent. Taking it. Like it's a lot of runs quite quickly. Or it's not that many runs, but quite quickly maybe.
Right, let's talk about LSG, who thrashed Kolkata Knight Riders. KKR were in dreamland as King Legend was ran out without facing. But they thought they'd won the game after I ran him out. They completely went to pot after that. Quinton de Kock, who sold his captain down the river, went hard. Huda and Stoinis picked up the pieces from Krunau and Badoni's Snorefest. And KKR's don't worry, Dre will do it tactics. Left him with 2 wickets in the game, 45 of 19. But other than his West Indian compatriot, Sunil Narine, no one is doing anything in that team. It's a shambles. They were bowled out for 101 and lost by 75. Jack, to start off with, I genuinely get a little bit sad when I have to watch KKR play cricket now.
They're very much this year's Sunrisers, aren't they?
Yeah, their whole lineup doesn't make sense to me. I think that they've been managed like terribly. They had at least some kind of blueprint at the start of the tournament, which was they won 2 out of 3 at the start, and since then they've been all over the place. It's just quite sad to see, really.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'll be honest. We might as well be honest with people that we decided to go to the Oval and watch cricket there instead of watching the second half of this match. It held very little interest to us. Once Lucknow got those runs and KKR had started pretty badly, it was pretty clear there wasn't going to be a huge contest here. They're just not an inspiring cricket team. There's no other way to put this. I don't know what's happened. I don't know whether they've drafted a particularly poor team. I mean, my instinct is probably not. I don't know if there's some internal clashes. But we pointed out 2 weeks ago, almost as a joke, that every match comes down to Dre Russ. Can he do it by himself? And then since then, every single match has come down to Dre Russ. Can he get 150? And he'll do that probably once a season, won't he? And he'll give it a bloody good go. I think to be fair as well, Narine is having an insane season. He's
going at less than 6 and over, isn't he?
He's bowled his full 44 overs, 5.22. He hasn't taken loads of wickets. He's only taken 8 wickets. But that's for people in that sort of just defensive spinner category. Let's say he's light years ahead of what they're doing. I mean, Ashwin would be maybe the next best example. His economy is 2 runs and over higher.
I think you nailed it when you said they're kind of this season Sunrisers, because actually teams are playing against KKR and they're just like, we can't go after Narine. There's no need for us to go after Narine. We'll get runs elsewhere.
Yeah,
and that was what Rashid Khan was in that role last year. And I mean, just looking at their batting lineup, and as we feel like Baba Indrath is not an IPL opening batsman. Aaron Finch is
Not an
honestly
IPL opening batting.
he's the village bike. Everyone's had a go, not good enough. Shreyas Iyer must be wishing he stayed at Delhi and just wasn't captain. He must be sitting there being like, look at what I've been trying to do. Rinku Singh has actually been okay. Nitish Rana, okay. Dreras Narayan. But again, Chakravarti going off the boil. Shivan Mavi's not had a great year. Southie's probably their pick of their seamers, really. He's probably better than Cummings. And Yadav was obviously out and injured.
But I don't think Tim Southee gets into another IPL team.
Yeah, I think
he's their
okay.
pick of their seamers.
Yeah.
And I'm not having a go at you here. I think you're probably right, but that's a freaking huge problem.
It is massive, and you're just looking at where they've got. Just have some cricketers. That's actually there might just be a bit where KKR just go. We should probably just pick the best guys who are good at cricket. Almost forget about T20. They could have just been like, you know what, Rahane, he's pretty good. Shreyas Iyer, he's good. Well, let's play them. They know how to play cricket. Sam Billings, he knows how to play cricket. Let's get him in.
Understands the rules.
Yeah, and at the moment they kind of just being like, we've got 25 squad player members. We're going to try and play all of them. Like when Punjab Kings played last year, they played 23 out of the 25, or is it 24 out of the 25? Like KKR are going to give them a run for their money. It's an embarrassment, and I feel really sorry for KKR fans because they should be an interesting team to follow, right? With Brendan McCullum at the helm, kind of the man who started to revolutionise white ball cricket. It's really bitterly disappointing. LSG, on the other hand, what a really exciting team to watch.
One of the joys of the tournament.
Yeah,
and I don't think I could have possibly imagined myself sitting here and saying that. I thought they'd be okay. I think we might have, when we did our run through, had them fourth, third. We had them somewhere near the playoffs. They look a proper outfit. Obviously, it's hilarious to see the ball eater run out without facing a ball.
I can't even call him that this year. Like, really, he's not really done it once. He's not had a 30 for 30 and got out, has he? He's been good. And this year he's got three. He's got three ducks, two first ballers, and one without facing.
Yeah, I mean it is. If you look at his stats, they are quite incredible. Bearing in mind that he has been out 3 times in 2 balls. He is just. I'm just bringing it up. Give me a sec.
He's second in the run scoring, isn't he? In the Aramco orange cap.
So he's got 451 runs, averaging 50, strike rate 145. Really, really good numbers. Like if you look at the top 10, Warner and Butler have higher strike rates. So it's serious runs, seriously quickly, and he has been out 3 times in 2 balls. For 0 on all occasions. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good year. That's if Butler weren't around, people would be really raving about how good. It is so funny that Butler is around. It is. It is kind of funny that he is. But credit where credit's due. KL. And actually we're doing that in a game where he had literally no impact on the whole game, and they've still won it really easily.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, I think some of their players just have a lot of confidence in their game now. Look at Deepak Hooda. Deepak Hooda this year has looked really good. He's been batting at number 3. Hasn't really batted there before in kind of the IPL. And he looks a class, there's a cut above at some places. Like the lofted cover drives he was playing yesterday, were really, really nice to watch. Kruna at 4 probably isn't the most optimal place, but again, they put a left-hander in there. It sometimes comes off, sometimes doesn't.
I think that's really dumb, but
yeah,
they're not perfect.
They're not perfect. But then Stoinis, again, kind of hit some runs, did his job in that space, and the fact that they do bat quite low down, when you've got I thought their pace bowling lineup is really strong. I think their batting is good enough, and Badoni's been a great find this year. But having Holder, Kamira, Avesh Khan, and Mohsin Khan be able to offer that, they all bowl at 140-ish. That's really difficult to get away. And Bishnoi probably hasn't had the best season, but actually he's probably going under the radar a bit, and actually still an effective person to bowl you 3 or 4 overs a game, and it's really working for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd maybe say they don't bat quite as deep as you've given them credit for, but they bat deep enough. I mean, where's 1, 2, 3? for Holders coming in at 7. After that, I think they're kind of 4 number 11s. But in most games, you'd probably get away with that. And if you've got De Kock and Rahul opening the batting, between the two of them, that's like having 3 openers in a way. Does that make sense? Like it does make sense. They're really stable batters who score lots of runs quite quickly.
I mean that's what Rajasthan are banking on, right? They're just like we've got 3 opening batsmen. They're probably going to bat. Like we're hoping that they don't get out until like the 14th over, and we've still got a couple in the shed. Then here having Holder at 7 is actually okay because KL Rahul is normally there or Quinton de Kock is there until overs 15. And you're like, great, we'll take it.
Can we quickly mention Quinton de Kock, that 6 he hit that sounded like someone had fired a sniper rifle in the stadium? Like he absolutely pelted one. I don't really trust how far the thing says they hit the ball. I think it was 107 meters. It went way back into the stand. Definitely worthy of some power praise.
Yeah, and I think he's a good option. Yeah, he's got his flaws, but I think he's now well into the double digits on IPL 50. So I think it might have even been his 19th, or it might have been his 17th. Can't quite remember. But again, he's a good pickup for them, and they're just a good team to watch at the moment. And KKR are not.
Yeah.
This is simple as that.
it's literally as simple as that. I don't want to talk about them anymore.
Yeah, let's not do it.
We'll have to do it at least 3 more times. So, well, they're on tomorrow, aren't they? Mumbai v KKR tomorrow.
They are. So
that's a hell game, isn't it?
Maybe we just have the day off tomorrow. Don't even bloody watch it. So let's. A quick message. We've got a couple of hundred people watching. So like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, and tell your brother, tell your sister, tell your friends about it, and get it over there. We are sponsored by Serious Cricket. Use code TCP22 for 10% off all equipment. And if you want to get involved on Patreon, go to Patreon/The Cricket Pod. It's £4, 4 English sterling pounds a month. Access to the Discord channel, which has been absolutely brilliant. And the people who have joined in the last kind of couple of weeks have made it even better. So, thank you for your continued support and engagement. Jack, Rajasthan Royals beat Dan Weston's Punjab Kings. Punjab Kings won the toss, decided to bat first, which I thought was their first mistake. But they saw a return to form for Bairstow, who was kind of a ball eater here, but kind of getting to a bit of form. It wasn't 55 or 55. He still struck at 140. Yeah, he was fine. They were saved somewhat by Jitish Sharma, who I thought batted really well, but Yuzi Chahal again wreaking havoc. But 189, you're taking that again against Rajasthan Royals as well. You're probably taking 189. Sadly, the Punjab Kings bowlers had a night off. Or there was something a bit dodgy added to their water bottles, because the Royals feasted in the power play. Jaiswal back in, and Josh reminding everyone that he's not the ball leader that he'd looked to be the last kind of couple of games. Immediately they broke the back of their chase, and they were almost ahead of the game after the 6th over, and that allowed Devdutt Padikkal to grind out a bloody boring innings, and then Hetty to be brilliant, as he has been, if we've been honest, all season. It was a really good win for Rajasthan Royals, who were having a bit of a mid-season wobble, just when they didn't need to have one. But Punjab will see this as will rue this as a missed opportunity.
Oh, big time, big time. I think actually batting first, brave, and probably the right call. I think 189 was a really good score. It wasn't a Decasaurus Rex by any stretch. Wankhede, there are a few short boundaries normally. There was one particularly short boundary, wasn't there? But it wasn't a pitch where you could just be like, well, there's the short boundary, let me plunder. It was kind of difficult. I thought Bairstow 56 off 40 was part of a reasonable foundation. You had Rajapaksa getting 27 off 18 at the other end. It helped out, set things pretty well for Jitesh and Livingstone, who both came off. People will be like, oh, Prasidh Krishna, he got out Livingstone and he won that battle. Prasidh Krishna went up for 30 off his last 2 overs. He did not win that battle. The wicket of Livingstone was irrelevant at that point. At 189 at the halfway point should have been more than enough. But it is to some extent, not the full extent, but to some extent, well, I don't know. I was going to say the story of the season, but if it isn't the full extent of the story, it's a plot in their season that they have good players who, with the ball in particular, have just completely failed to execute or failed to execute at really crucial times. Now, on some occasions, oh dear Smith, it was sort of to be expected. Like the possibility that oh dear Smith blows up. Well, I mean, it's more than a possibility, isn't it? Like the guy hasn't got much. In this match, it was Rabada and to maybe a slightly smaller extent, Sandeep Sharma. The pair of them, way off the pace for a game like this. Way off the pace.
Yeah. And again, it was a huge game for Punjab Kings. Again, like we talk about there being crunch games, this is it. And Sandeep Sharma is what I think Bhuvi broke his record. I think it was 2 weeks ago in terms of being the person who's taken the most wickets in the IPL power play.
You were saying this, I just didn't believe you.
Yeah. Like Sandeep Sharma has got a great IPL history, but here just wasn't up to the standard. Rabada has been expensive this year, but he's been their strike bowler. He's been taking wickets for them. But here, we're saying he bowled pretty much an over down leg side.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Sandeep Sharma first. Sandeep Sharma bowled the first over of the innings to Jaiswal, who was dropped from the Rajasthan Royals team correctly because he wasn't good enough. Like he was having a terrible season. What does he do? He sends down 3 long hops, way wide off stump. And the commentators, they were like, "Oh, this is some kind of plan to keep it out of his hitting arc." It was like, well, there are two options here. One, it was a plan to keep it out the hitting arc by bowling really wide and badly, and for some reason they thought that would work. In which case, like, absolutely stupid because the guy couldn't hit the ball off the square in any of his other matches. 2, he was actually trying to hit the top of off stump like he should have been against a guy who is, I don't want to say out of his depth. I mean, he had a good innings, right? But like so far this season, not in form, let's say. And instead, he can't execute that. He can't execute that plan. So either it's a dumb plan or he's not good enough. Either way, like it's really subpar cricket for the stage of the tournament you're at, and the fact that you've managed to fight your way back into it, like it's.
And that's the last thing you want, right? When you've got all that pressure, there's always pressure on here. Like one game, you sometimes in some cases you only get one game in an IPL season. The fact that he's got a second bite of the cherry, his nerves would have been up here. Would be like, I need to do well today. And getting 3 freebies is a gift. Like if you're out of nick, you do not want someone bowling at the stumps and nibbling it away. Like you just don't want that. So yeah, I agree with you on that front. Rabada, we're big fans of Rabada on the show. Again, doesn't quite nail it.
It was an awful over. I mean, like, I'm thinking specifically here of one over. I think there were 3 to go. Arshdeep at the other end is like, have you heard of Sisyphus? The man who rolled the rock up the hill. Like, he was a Greek demigod. I don't know, he pissed off Zeus like they all do. And his punishment was that every day he would get up and he would have to roll a boulder up the hill. And then, like, at the end of the day, he'd lose his grip or he'd fall asleep and the boulder would roll all the way down. And then the next day, I don't know why he did it. Maybe he was bored, or maybe Zeus would like eating his children, some Greek shit. But he would start rolling. I mean, if it were me, I'd be like, look, I've tried rolling this boulder 3 days in a row. It's obviously a stupid thing to do. So I'm gonna like become an electrician. He didn't do that. He was
ancient Greece.
Yeah.
I'm going to be an electrician in ancient Greece. Yeah.
Well, look, Zeus, he had lightning, didn't he? It'd probably be a good way to get back on Zeus's good side. Being an
I mean, fine. Yeah, really useful. Yeah, all the Greek podcasts that are happening at the time.
Anyway, he did this every day. It must feel like that for Arshdeep. Every day, his punishment is to try and keep the runs down at the death for the Kings, and he always does the job. Like he's the creme de la creme. And then at the other end, it's Oh Dear Smith or Rabada or Sandeep Sharma or Rishi Dhawan, just going round the park It's like none of them, like even a little bit can keep can keep it together. There was a great stat. I can't remember where I saw it, so you'll have to bear with me. But you've got Arshdeep, like the king of the death bowling. This season so far, Rabada going at 9.4 and over, which is I'd give that a C. Like it's okay. It's kind of usable death bowling. Wasn't great yesterday. And then the rest of the team's going like 13 and over. And it's not like 1 or 2 overs of this. They bowl 75 balls for other people going at 13 and over. Like everybody else they use is an absolute pie chucker in this phase. And it just costs them game after game after game. And they're out, I think, to me.
Yeah, Arshdeep, he looks horrible to face because he's got quite an unconventional action. He's bowls left arm, and then also he doesn't chuck it, but there is a bit of a sling kind of thing, and it comes out at an awkward angle. Like you can see why he's doing really well. But yeah, if you don't have a supporting cast, you need to have 4 other people in your team who you can be like, come on, at least one of you, only one other person, put your hand up and come with me here. Chahal hasn't been brilliant this year either from the spinner, and Liam Livingstone's kind of the part-time spinner in that space. They have just struggled on that bowling front. I do think they are probably playing their best 11 at the moment, but again, big games, you need your big players to stand up, and
they just
didn't do it.
Sometimes you need them to stand up when they're slightly behind. I mean, like Rabada bowled a bad over when they were in a bad situation. You're paying, he's your big boy. Sometimes over a season you need the big boy to stand up and do a thing. And I think with the ball that hasn't really happened. I mean the bat, there've been some fluctuations in form, let's say, but at various points, Livingston, Rajapaksa, Darwan, even Agarwal's had like a decent knock. Odean Smith had a decent knock. Jitesh Sharma, maybe the bargain of the season. It just isn't happening with the ball.
No, disappointing. Let's talk about Rajasthan Royals. So earlier, Jitter sent us some good pizza money and asked about why Jaiswal wasn't preferred over the new ball leader extraordinaire Devdutt Padikkal. And
what a weird innings.
So it's interesting, right? Because Rajasthan Royals, as we've talked about many times, Nathan Coulter-Nile got injured, and they kind of thought, he's going to be our number 7 batsman. And that number 6 was always a bit of a question mark because Rian Parag, who has batted well once, to be fair to him, but there was a bit of an issue in terms of how they do it. 1, they retained Jaiswal. 2, they then picked up Devdutt. And Devdutt was obviously the opening batsman for RCB, and he's a good youth player. He's a good youngster. He's got potential, but is he really the person who's going to step up and stand it? And they tried to use him here as, we can't keep on picking Karen Nair. We don't need to pick Daryl Mitchell because Daryl Mitchell can't hit it off the square. And here, I didn't mind their readjustment. I didn't mind them putting Devdutt back into the middle order. I didn't mind it, but he literally. Again, he couldn't hit it off the square. Was it 31 or 32 balls? But because they had such a strong start, he was allowed to do that. And the fact that Hetmeyer is Hetmeyer, they got away with it here. But the fact that it comes down to Punjab not being able to exert enough pressure on the other end and let Devdutt do whatever he wanted to.
I mean, it's an absolutely shocking innings. 31 of 32 in a chase of 190. I mean, how good are you at mental maths? Is that 158 off 89? The rest of the team need to get. That's a hell of a run rate.
Yeah,
hell of a run rate.
But we're not Royals fans. I'm a Royals fan. We're not picking out Devdutt to kind of say, oh, he is a good player, but this is like when Virat does this, we're like, this is a disgrace. When KL Rahul does it, it's a disgrace. These are not good innings. These put so much pressure on your teams.
Here's a question for you. One of our top favourite analysts that we follow, Cricketing View, on Twitter, this week has been saying there's no such thing as selfish innings in cricket. There's just people who are playing bad innings and people victimise them because they played a bad innings. Do you think there was an element here with what Devdutt Padikkal was doing actually maybe was a little bit selfish in that he thought that Hetmeyer would do the business from the other end, and that Sampson and Butler and Jaiswal had done enough heavy lifting that he could just take some time to knock it around and get himself back into form.
I think so. I completely disagree with that sentiment. My innings on Monday, I was just like, I want to have a bit of time out in the middle here. I was not even trying to hit the ball. I wasn't even trying to hit it. I just was like, I'll just spend a bit of time. Like, there's
you're not a professional cricketer.
I know, but it's just complete bullshit that there's not such thing as a selfish innings. Like the whole Jeffrey Boycott built a whole career, built a whole reputation on being an arse and being a selfish cricketer. There's so many other examples.
I just thought it was really an interesting take, and I wanted to hear your thoughts there.
Well,
I mean, what I'd maybe say is that there are maybe some innings that are played by people that we describe as selfish, that the players themselves wouldn't understand as selfish, and I think this maybe applies to some of Kohli's knocks. The really famous one is Gavaskar getting like 30 off 150 when they were needed 6 and over in the 1979 World Cup. Like a hilariously, like obviously it's selfish. Obviously what he's doing there is hugely detrimental to the team, and he'd be better off like slogging and trying to get out. He's not playing bad. You know, if you get 30 off 150, it is something ludicrous like that. then what you're doing is intentionally trying to keep yourself in and not trying to score runs. And that is selfish. That is not understanding how a team sport should be played. Was it his intention to go out there and be selfish? I don't know. Maybe he just didn't understand that was a bad thing to do. I think that does happen. Like, we give a lot of credit to these guys, but a lot of them are just like really good at hitting a ball with a stick. They're not putting that much thought into it. And that's 100% true. That's why you get KP on the commentary talking about CSK's net run rate, because he literally doesn't understand maths. Like, it's... No, I'm not saying that to be horrible to him. He just doesn't understand that what he's talking about is completely irrelevant. He's like, I've got to fill the air with something, and he's saying this, and it's not
paid for word, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not providing any insight. If he were in the dressing room, he'd be saying similar bullshit, and sometimes that bullshit is selfish when you look at it from a logical perspective.
And I think we had it in the Discord channel, right? I think someone raised that, well, actually, he's batted like this because they don't have much batting afterwards. I think within himself, Parag, Ashwin, they've probably got 30 runs there off fewer balls. They probably have that together, and it was a poor innings.
And then Hetmeyer does have to do another Hetmeyer. Yeah, what a great season he's having. But like,
I mean, he's genuinely really, really good. They'd be really struggling without him. But again, I think we've talked about this. Punjab Kings have really let themselves down in that department. I think they have had some real issues with team selection at the start of the tournament, a real mismatch of different cricketing ideas and philosophies that actually just were really poorly executed, regardless of how exciting they could be. They've got a team which I think next year will do well, but they need to figure out just that one more bowling slot. I think they need another bowler in there who just does the business for them. Because this year has proved that some of them just aren't up to the task. My boys, the Royals, we're roaring on, and are really well positioned now, Jack. Like, they should. Yeah, they should. They've got a good run rate, a net run rate, and they're on 14 points. They win one more game, and they're probably there. They've
got DC, Lucknow, and CSK to play. Decent chance that Lucknow have nothing to play for, i.e. are qualified. I mean, maybe the top two, so that maybe is a difficult one. CSK will definitely have nothing to play for. Could make them dangerous. Could also mean they play whoever. DC, if they win that, they effectively knock out one of the... I mean, they literally do knock out DC, because then DC can only win 7 matches, and Rajasthan will have 8. So they've got... I don't know, it's not really a quarter-final, is it? It's like... For them, it's like an irrelevant match. For Delhi, it's do or die. I think they're there. I think they're
there. Let's talk about Ahmedabad boys. Because what you gonna do? But they, we thought they would actually lose to Mumbai, and they duly did. They just felt like
they duly did. They basically won the match, and then Daniel Sams, the pariah of Mumbai, defended 8 off the last over. But carry on.
Yeah, I was just kind of trying to fit the narrative that we predicted they would lose, and they duly did.
We did do
But
that.
they Mumbai did decide to pick their good players like Tim David, who impressed again. Rohit Sharma and Kishan at the top actually batted like proper T20 opening batsmen. It was great to watch, and I thought 177 was chaseable, but it was a decent enough score. And then I think it was Gujarat Titans opening batsman who got off to a flyer, but then painfully slowed down. They just, it was a bit confused, and it was them faltering and not getting out kind of early enough to get their middle order firing, that they had the Tuatia factor with too few overs left. Killer Miller didn't have enough time. I'm not sure. I think we've probably seen the best of David Miller, and we probably won't get the kind of thing. But this was a low quality game, pretty pointless fixture in the grand scheme of the tournament, and yeah, it was quite disappointing, really.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I mean, it had its moments. To be fair, didn't it? It was good to see. Yeah, it was good to see Daniel Sam's bowler crucial over and defend it and slay the beast to some extent in Tuatia. He's been the monster, hasn't he? I also liked Tim David, 44 from 21. How different your season could be.
Yeah, well, he said the last couple of games he's been really good.
Played your best team.
Yeah, well, he spent 8 crore on someone, and they'd be like, "Nah, do you know what? You've had a couple of tough times in one of the most difficult slots to play in T20." Yeah. And Kieran Pollard has to play every week, who's having the worst season nearly of all time.
14.
Yeah,
are you having a laugh?
I mean,
it's what are you doing?
People speak about him in the same breath as Andre Russell. Andre Russell is way up here, way up compared to Kieran Pollard.
I get the Pollard legacy is immense.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Pollard is an incredible, historically speaking, an incredible T20 player. Probably in the top 11 all time.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely is. Yeah.
But this guy isn't.
Yeah, I don't know who this Kieran Pollard is instead of Kieran Pollard. But again, we've seen some players like David Warner. David Warner bereft of form, bereft of confidence, and has come back this year firing. Maybe that was what we're going to get with Kieran Pollard. Maybe it's just a case of a bit of bad form. Class is permanent. I don't think it's one of those things where you can just write him off. But he's been given lots of time by Indians, and probably earned that time, if we're being honest. But yeah, they're lucky they're not firing for the playoffs, because they would have a big question mark over whether they should be playing him or not.
I think what you could probably fairly say for Pollard is that his going back to the start of 2021, the last, 2 years? 18 months? Probably the IPL has been the exception rather than the rule. Or sorry, the 2021 IPL has been the exception rather than the rule. He was excellent in that. He has not been great in the CPL. He has been quite poor in international cricket. 6 sixes against Sri Lanka aside, which admittedly quite impressive. I'll give him that. Stokes, I mean, we don't really do county championships, but diversion. Stokes 34 off 6 balls. If you've not seen this, and some of the people who listen won't, that is mad.
Hit 17 sixes in an innings. The Durham record for the season is 18. So in one innings, he literally got 17. It was incredible. But yeah, that kind of, it's a good divergence to Stokes, but I don't think he should be playing T20 cricket. But never mind.
Yeah, so I think maybe we're seeing the dying of the light for Pollard. I haven't got much to say on this game.
I don't think we need to. I think it was a pretty pointless game. Mumbai Indians.
Is there a possibility that Gujarat lose their last 3 matches and miss the playoffs?
No, I don't think there is. I think Gujarat I think they have the quality to win. And again, it's a bit of a wobble. I think every team always has a bit of a wobble. And at the moment, they played a lot of games in a very short amount of time. I think they can cut them a bit of slack. I do think we are getting that regression to the mean. We thought their team would probably not perform as well as they did in the first 9 games of the season, but they've got enough quality in that side now to win at least one more game.
Yeah, one more game's guaranteed top 4, isn't it? Even if they don't win another game, there's a pretty good chance they go through, particularly with how the results have gone, because obviously Delhi, Sunrisers, Punjab need to be out of 3 to get to 8. So we will see them. Maybe not in the top 2 though. maybe not in the top 2.
Yeah, which is an issue, right, for them. I think they have to play 2 games. That's an issue. Anyway, let's shift to the final game that we're covering. Delhi Capitals beat Sunrisers Hyderabad. There's only one bit we can cover here is the revenge arc. David Warner was absolutely class, and he was so good that he even turned down the opportunity to get a century as he wanted Rovman Powell to smash even more runs against a pretty wayward bowling lineup. I was so happy that SRH lost this, by the way, and I was really glad actually for David Warner. And as an Englishman, just kind of turn around and say that, but it was fantastic to see. He was a man possessed and looked kind of back to the bull that we've seen before and was taken 3 orange caps before.
Didn't he refuse to acknowledge the SRH bench? Just like blank them all in the hand. He like did a Wayne Bridge, like I'm not shaking your hand. I'm pretty sure that happened. I'm pretty sure that I didn't imagine that.
Mate, even if it didn't happen, I'm all here for it. Definitely. But again, here, Sunrisers, the mismanagement in their area was really bad. Like Umran Malik, the way in which they used him was poor. Gopal and Abbott were bad. And again,
I forgot Abbott got a game before this random geezer from Afghanistan.
Yeah. So they're kind of a bit of a lottery at the moment, aren't they? Just like, do you want to go? Yeah, we're right in the crux of our season, but we're just going to mix it up. And we've already kind of gone into them. We were talking on Wednesday's show around who would you rather have in your team, Bairstow or Puran? And Puran's had a pretty decent IPL. And here, he hit some runs, but there was no pressure whatsoever. The game was gone. He literally was batting carefree. There wasn't really a chance of winning the game. And again, if SRH, who I don't think are going to qualify, they're definitely going to be. There's going to be a lot of what ifs, I think, for this. A lot of what ifs for their team.
Yeah. They are a bit of a what if side at this point, aren't they? What if Kane Williamson scored any runs at any speed? I think I said on the last show that he's the worst player in the league, and somebody said that's ridiculous. He is the worst player in the league. Since the last time we spoke, he has scored 4 runs, and it's taken him 11 balls, and he's been out twice. He's Ross. You could do better than him. There's no doubt in my mind that you score more runs than Kane Williamson quicker than Kane Williamson in the IPL this year.
Oh, there we go. Get me a contract. I'll play for KKR and I'll do a better job than Baba at the top of the order. I'll tell you that for free.
You could, and look, they wouldn't respect you as a captain. They would not.
You're putting me straight in as captain.
Yeah. You're just
nice, like that.
They wouldn't respect that, but I still think Sunrisers are probably in a similar position where they are now. You say Puran. I think it's a bit harsh to pick on Puran. He did right.
I'm not picking on him. It was just that bit like people turn around and be like, "Look what Puran can do." I was like, "Great," but there's no pressure here. The game was done, and it's that bit where I want to see him drag this Sunrisers team across the line on a couple of occasions before I kind of go, "Do you know what? This guy deserves to be the West Indian T20 and ODI captain." But it is what it is. Like.
That's not where I'm going with the hate. I think the reserve bowlers, after you get past Natarajan, bad. Absolutely, we saw this happening. One of them, Bhuvi or Natarajan, would break down. Absolutely, this was going to happen, and that the replacement wouldn't be very good. The fact that they had an overseas bowler that was bowling well, and they've wasted 2 matches of him by picking Sean Abbott and the random Afghan. And both of them, actually, symmetry, both went, both return figures of 47 for 1. You are thick. You are really thick if you think that either of those calls were a good decision. But partly the frustration talking about Sunrisers comes from the fact that when we talk about them, people get upset. Like most fan groups in the IPL, they fall into a few camps. Like, one, they absolutely love their team and they're kind of shocked that anyone would possibly call out them being bad, and they're like, "What are you talking about? That's insane." Obviously, Dhoni is the greatest cricketer of all. CSK, that's what I'm thinking of. CSK or Mumbai, maybe to a slightly lesser extent. Then there's the fatalistic guys, KKR fans, Punjab fans. They're like, yeah, I know you think our team's good, but trust me, you're wrong. And then there's the Sunrisers fans who are like, no, you're an idiot because you think that Kane Williamson scoring at under a run a ball and averaging 12 is bad. Like, can you not see he's a genius? And this is where the frustration about Sunrisers really honestly comes from, is that attitude. So you deserve to hear this. If you're somebody
still tuned in,
who's feeling their blood boil. Sean Abbott and the random Afghan, two of the stupidest selections of this season. You have a head coach who's a moron, if he thought that was right. Shreyas Gopal, miracle he was even in the IPL this year. He was heinously bad last season.
Yeah, they might as well play P.S. Chawla. They could have played Pai Dean.
Well, Amit Mishra. Amit Mishra was in the auction. You could have had Pai Dean. You picked two really injury-prone fast bowlers, presumably out of loyalty. One of them breaks down, and the guy you bring in, the Indian replacement, isn't as good. You got what's coming. 277 runs for 3. Could have been worse. It could have been worse. It could have been worse against RCB, and it showed up how poor the batting lineup is as well. 186 is a miracle. They got 186. Like you say, Ross, it's because Pooran, pressure completely off, decided to have a little bit of a laugh. They could have lost this game by 80, and it would have been fair. It would have been fair.
I think there's no better way to wrap up the show with an SRH rant. I look forward to the $400 coming our way, and I'm not going to be wearing a Sunrisers hat, which is lovely, or a jersey. Thank you ever so much for listening. Oh, you got one more point. One final
thing. I like there are a couple of Sunrisers fans I like in the Discord. Sudeep, who absolutely smashes me at chess every time. Like, I'm sorry that I had to do that rant. I don't hate all Sunrisers fans, and actually I did think that you'd put together a pretty good team.
Don't backtrack now, mate.
No, but
die on the hill.
Two matches ago, I was like, look, I've been proved wrong. Like, they're quite a good team, and then immediately that moron in charge blows up. Like, he had the easiest job in the world. Just keep doing what he was doing.
Yeah, they had a game plan. It was working. Delhi did really well in that game. They gave themselves a chance. Huge week, obviously, now for them. They must win. It's going to be really interesting, and we'll be back on Wednesday. Subscribe and like this video, share with your friends, leave us a rating, and join Patreon /The Cricket Pod. Thanks.